Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Linda.
So everybody, I'm Linda and I'm from Ashtanga Yoga Paris, and Lizzie has been very generous to donate her time to have this little talk with her about the survival tools of yoga. And next week on Sunday evening, same time, same place, she's going to give us a restorative yoga class. Actually, not same place because it's not on YouTube, it'll just be on Zoom. So we're very grateful for that. You can go to our website and see on the schedule, find her class, and you'll just follow through from there. If you have questions, just send me a message, and in the comments, I'm going to put the link so that you'll directly be brought to her class. Okay, so Lizzie. So Lizzie is a specialist in restorative yoga, and she's going to share with us a little bit of why she thinks that this has been very helpful for during these times, these last couple months dealing with the confinement and COVID, but also I think in general, it's kind of interesting to listen to her. And I'll share some of my experience as well. So let's let Lizzie start.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your channel. Everyone should subscribe to the Ashtanga Yoga Paris
Yes,
channel. And we're also going to post it on my Lizzie Lasater YouTube channel. So I have just been so grateful, I would say is the number one word in the past few months, for having yoga in my life. I don't know if you feel the same way, Linda, but it's as if all of my yoga life, I've been training and practicing for this difficult phase. And I see what skills that I've been working on and acquiring in terms of being able to turn inward, being able to embrace stillness, and above all, what sort of the meditation aspect of yoga for me really entails is a recognition of the impermanence and the changeability of all things. So I have been turning to my mat in this time as a refuge. Is that what you've been feeling?
Yeah, for me, the main thing that came to me was, so I'm usually very much a control freak. Right?
What?
Even this is why I do Ashtanga yoga with alignments, right? But over those years, because of practicing, like you said, when I came to yoga, this was really my way. I can control whatever. I'm going to make my own destiny, and I will get whatever I want, basically. And this is kind of the American way, right? North American. I'm Canadian, but this is what you're taught, that, if you work hard, you can achieve anything. And so this is how I grew up, and this is what I thought, and I'm the controller of my own universe, kind of thing. But then over time, when you're studying yoga philosophy, and then you're going inside a lot and doing, the physical and the breathing aspects, then you start to recognize that you're one with the universe, and you are not the doer. Right? So you are not the doer. And so this was one of the main things that came at me at this time, because I'm so used to being able to, okay, well, if we do this, then, we can survive from that, and we can just kind of manage things, and it'll all come out okay. But when we were told that the yoga studio had to be closed, I was just like, wow, okay, nobody in my life has ever told me, Linda, you have to close your business. You can't do anything. And so that was a bit shocking. But as you said, then I went back into my tools, my inner self, and I recognized that Yes, I am not the doer, and all I can do is embrace this and go with the flow. Now, I'm not saying I do that all very well all the time. There's ups and downs, and some days it's, everything is fine. It's going to work out okay. This is what's meant to be, and you have to have faith and trust in the universe. And at the end, this is what the earth is needing. But then other days, well, how am I going to support my family and all that? So yeah, the yoga has helped. And for me, I do, like I said, I do mostly Ashtanga yoga, like alignment driven Ashtanga, but I've also restorative yoga. I find when things are completely overwhelming for me, to go through this very precise kind of yoga practice makes me feel even more stressed. Whereas if I just like get out my bolsters, my blankets, and I just hang out and then go into my breath, going to see what's happening in me. And very often it makes me cry. I'll have a lot of crying, letting go, and then I feel better. It's like you've released the physical aspect of all that tension.
Exactly.
So no, definitely I think those years have been helpful. And then also I think for me with the yoga, it's my yoga all my life, I would say, has been the role of a server. Like even before I was doing yoga, this was my personality. You need help? Okay, let me help you. And so bringing that, and because I kind of felt isolated too. You're stuck in your home, and I can't teach. I can't even teaching through our teachers, because even if I'm not the actual teacher in the yoga class, I feel like as it's like my founding and training, that I feel like I get to the end student through the teachers that we've trained over those years. So that threw me off for a while. But then it took me about a week, I went into kind of like a week hibernation, when we were told about the closure and how serious this COVID was. And I did mostly restorative yoga, went inside, did a lot of thinking and crying and reflecting. And then I started doing these live things, which doesn't feel very natural for me, but it gave me a way to connect with others and still serve the community. So, and that makes me feel like I have a reason for being, and there's a purpose in my life here. So, yeah.
Well, I definitely resonate with a lot of what you said. One of my mantra that has come up in this time is that control is my favorite illusion. And I even find myself, as I look forward to 2021, 2022, actively, I just had a conversation yesterday about canceling a retreat in 2021, not even planning it or scheduling it, saying, let's postpone to 2022, because I would rather choose to cancel it rather than move forward, step forward into that unknown space, put my energy there, and then have it be canceled because of the circumstances. So I was watching that dynamic within myself of feeling so vulnerable and afraid of putting myself out there and then it not working out and being canceled from the outside, which is just, so interesting. Of course, we all know this, but this time has brought forward into our vision right in front of our faces the state in which we live all the time. Anyone that we care about could be gone tomorrow. We have no, as our Buddhist friends say, the cause of death is birth. So we know that it's hanging by a thread, and we act every day. In order to act, we pretend like everything is going to keep churning and keep going, and everyone is going to stay alive, and everything is going to keep working. And this is really, for me, it's been a process of grief going through the past few months, because it feels like a huge loss. And you and I are among the lucky ones. I mean, we're being asked to stay at home and to, our business or our livelihood has shifted, or fallen off. But, we don't have family members who are sick, and we're not going out into the front lines or into vulnerable workplaces. So, I mean, whenever I think about it, I always give a huge namaste to all of the people around us that are helping us sort of experience the boredom of being cooped up at home.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yoga has been such a lifeline for me, and not just now because this is what's in front of us, but I wrote about this on my Instagram the other day. Through all of the most difficult phases of my adult life, yoga was there for me. When I went to graduate school in New York and I was totally in over my head, and I made this commitment to get up every morning before breakfast to do 15 minutes on the yoga mat, regardless of what poses I did. I just said, I need to get on the mat and do 15 minutes. And that was what saved me in that 3 years that were so intense and so overwhelming in architecture school. When I moved to Europe, for example, I was really lonely, living in a strange city, trying to work as a designer, not finding it easy to get a job. And I found this yoga community, this studio, and they just embraced me and drew me back into teaching yoga. I had taught yoga years before, and I had stopped because I thought I was going to become a designer as my career. And then this studio just drew me back in with their love and their good vibes. And suddenly I found myself, with a Thursday night restorative class. That was about 5 years ago. And then it just, grew from there. And so now, for example, is another time, a time of grief for what we're all going through. It's a collective grief. But of course, I think yoga as a survival tool, as a life raft, is available for us when we go through personal grief, of course, when we lose people in our lives, when we go through a change of our relationship status, when we lose, I'm, in my mid-30s, I just had babies. I have a lot of friends and family who are having miscarriages, this is the era where all of that real earthy stuff is going on in my cohort. So yoga can be a life raft for us in those times as well.
And I like the one point you made when you were in graduate school, that you got up and you did 15 minutes. This is something I think that a lot of us don't understand, that this very, especially again in the Ashtanga yoga community, because I went through so many years feeling guilty if I didn't do a 2-hour practice, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't do my complete practice. And after I had children, before I had children, this was fine. Like, even if I worked 12 hours, I was alone. So anything I did was I could use my own energy just for me. But now you know what it's like. You've got 2 small babies. And so after I had the babies, that's what I started going through, was this guilt trip, because I was exhausted, because I'm up every night and you're trying to make a living, you're working full time. And I had that guilty feeling if I didn't do my real Ashtanga practice. So over the years, I've started to recognize that there's a lot of people that just don't do yoga because they think that it has to be, they have some vision of what it has to be, whether it's a 1-hour practice or a 1.5 or 2-hour practice, or these asanas or those asanas. And this 15 minutes or 10 minutes or even 5 minutes, I started doing a mindful yoga pause on the YouTube channel, because I have this mindless, there's my British showing up, mindfulness bell. If you heard about this, I got the idea from Plum Village, because when you go to Plum Village, they just ring the bell at any moment, and no matter what you're doing, you're supposed to stop, pause, go inside and listen. And the first time, it really threw me off, because I'm having a conversation and I'm into my conversation, and then I have to stop. And so I would see my mind just trying to remember what I wanted to say. But then slowly, I realized, no, that's not what it's for. And I started to feel this really deep peace. So I've kept that practice with the bell on my phone. And so the idea was to put in a mindful yoga pause for maybe those who don't have very much time. And my videos are 5 to 15 minutes. So, but even this would be amazing, because I think it's important to really, like when you suggested this, yoga as a survival tool, I was thinking about it, and I thought, it's really not even the yoga so much as it is the philosophy, like what, the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. Because as you're the master of restorative yoga, and we're doing, different styles of yoga, it made me think, but it doesn't really matter the style of yoga or the time or the asanas. It's really that, do I take this time to go into myself and learn to still my mind and hear myself, hear my heart, and of course move, because our emotions are connected to our body, and if we don't have some body movement, then it's hard to disperse those movements. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that the longer I practice, the more my home practice becomes about listening and less about telling my body. It's like it's carved out space for being on the metaphoric and literal mat, the island, the refuge, and saying, okay, now what? Body, mind, spirit, what is it that is going to feed me at this moment? So it might be one day that Shavasana is the first pose I do, because my babies are both magically, I have twins, I have 8-month-old twins. It's like they're both magically asleep at the same time during the day. And so I will often, Shavasana is the first thing I will do, because I'll say, who knows how long I have? I might only have 15 or 20 minutes before one of the babies wakes up. So I know that's the dosage of what I need today, right now, to recharge myself. Like putting on your own mask on the airplane first. But some days it depends. And for me, it fluctuates a lot with my menstrual cycle. But some days it'll be, I need to get on my mat and I may only have 15 or 20 minutes, but I need to move. I'm going to start with sun salutations, or I'm going to just put on some music and move and my experience as well in a home practice. And I have tried to explain this so often to students. I don't know if you have a similar experience, but when I get on the mat without a set of poses, like an Ashtanga primary series in my mind, if I get on to do a freeform practice, I usually just take a first pose that I like, something like dog pose. And then I wait, and inevitably something pops up. It's like an image. For me, I think in images, it's an image of the next pose. And I go there, and I just use it as well as a space to train my intuition, because I trust myself that, okay, I drop all the rules. Like, oh, weird, a twist and then a back bend and then a forward bend and then another twist. And it's like, who cares? I trust that my body knows what needs to come next. And I just stay in the pose and breathe until the next pose arrives. Does that ever happen to you?
Well, the thing is, I practiced really Mysore style in a yoga shala for so many years. So in fact, and I teach Vinyasa yoga. And what I find interesting is in my own practice, I rarely do Vinyasa yoga, because when I'm on my own, it feels the most calming to me to do what I know. Right. So, I practiced 6 years, right? Always, like almost always with a teacher in the room. So then when I get on the front of my mat and I put my hands in front, automatically it just happens. So it's more, I would say, when something is bothering me that I go off that.
Right.
Yeah. So like if I'm in a bad mood, for instance, when I'm like feeling angry about something, then if I stay on the same practice, it just starts to bug me. So then I'll just do some poses that I want to do, Or
Mhm.
like I said, if I'm heavily, like I mentioned when my mother passed away. So actually when she got sick, because my mother was young, she was 62 when she got sick, which is fairly young. And I just didn't imagine that this could have happened to her. And so when she got sick, I took about almost 3 months of doing restorative yoga on my fluffy carpet in my living room by myself. I couldn't go to the yoga room. I didn't want to be next to other people. I didn't want to feel like I had to be self-conscious about, tears or doing what I need to do. And most of the time I was only doing restorative yoga. Sometimes I did some little bits of dynamic stuff, but mainly restorative. And I journaled. I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And on my yoga mat, in a yoga pose,
Yeah.
and cried and cried and cried. And then it became really comfortable after a while. And then I realized, Linda, I think maybe it's time to get out of this and get back to the yoga room and do your regular practice, because there came to a point where I started feeling like so comfortable in this that it was a little bit of a laziness, I would say. But then when I noticed that, I gave myself 2 weeks. I said, okay, it's like, going on a diet or something. I'm not going to eat any more chocolate. Okay, just 2 more weeks of chocolate. And then on this date, Monday, this date. And then it gave my body, my mind, everything, the process to allow, okay, this is the date. And I went back to the yoga mat in the yoga room with everybody else. And
Beautiful.
it just went from there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so how is it with the kids? You said that sometimes it's hard to get time, and how do you must feel like sometimes when I had the kids, what I thought about is, what about those single mothers? Yeah.
I mean, impossible to,
yeah.
impossible to imagine doing this alone. That's what I say to my girlfriends who don't have kids yet, or I was just talking to a girlfriend of mine who was like, yeah, maybe I should just get pregnant with my boyfriend now because we're all home anyway and stuff. And I was like, I haven't met your boyfriend. You've only been together a few months. All I can say is it's really important who you have kids with.
Yeah.
Because for the what is your character at 3:00 in the morning when you're fighting each other in the bed? I'm hitting him and he's hitting me about one of our
Who gets up tonight?
Who gets up tonight? One of our son's favorite 3 a.m. activities is after he drinks and goes back to bed, and one of us, he's already had a fresh diaper, and then as we're all lying there falling back asleep, he likes to very loudly indicate that he is now pooping. And it's like Rochambeau, who's going to get up again and go change another diaper right now? And it's like, are you going to laugh at that moment? Or are you going to resent? Or are you going to say, it was me last night. It has to be your turn,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yes, but in terms of children and yoga, I mean, I'm really lucky. I have a very involved partner. We have some help now. And I've also just been radically gentle with myself about what I define as enough yoga. And as you spoke about feeling guilty about not doing a certain amount of poses or doing enough yoga, whatever we each define that for ourselves to be, I have really dropped that. I mean, I had a C-section, so my physical body for a couple months was totally spun out. I didn't feel at all in my physical body. I felt very weak, and my whole abdominals were just not and I had gained a lot of weight in my twin pregnancy, and I just felt very uncomfortable in my body movement wise. So for a couple months, I just took it off the table. It was like, there's no yoga requirement. I'm happy if I go for a walk with the stroller. I'm happy if I can do a shavasana. And then often I just napped. If I had 20 minutes, it's like sleep is more important right now. And then as the boys settled into a better night rhythm and it became more predictable that they go to bed at 7, then I have the evenings. And so often I will practice in the evenings now when it's quiet. And then, my husband's on the couch watching Netflix with headphones, and I'm like 3 feet away, 5 feet away, 2 meters away, you know, like in chair shoulder stand or doing some dog pose. So, but I think that has been really invaluable in my life, especially as I said about the 15 minutes. And I would do that 15 minutes in graduate school with a timer. Like I would set a timer on my phone and it was like, you know, when this thing goes ding, I'm done. Also because I was so tight on time. But I think redefining the rules of the game so you can already win. Like if you want to start a meditation practice, literally give yourself, say, I want to meditate every day, but it's 5 minutes or it's 3 minutes, you know, something so doable where the bar is so low that the resistance is also so low.
And it works.
It works.
When you sit even for 5 minutes or just breathe, like my pranayama teacher, he says, just do 5 rounds of whichever pranayama you want. And you just start. And suddenly you start to feel more settled in the body, the breath, the mind. So it really works. So for everybody out there who are too hard on themselves, listen.
Totally. And I think, you know, as Linda was, as you were saying, it's like, the first week of the lockdown, you didn't feel like doing your typical practice. I mean, how human of you, your whole world was upended. And so honestly, we would be robots if you still woke up every day with exactly the same desire and joie de vivre that you had a few weeks before to attack your practice or, you know, work on new poses or whatever it was you're into. It's like, I think we need to let our yoga practice respond to our life, because otherwise it is robotic. And otherwise, I think if we we're in the danger of inflicting the practice onto ourselves, like some sort of punishment.
Checklist, you know, or like,
And, you know, I had a similar experience. I mean, I studied Ashtanga Yoga with the beloved Mati Ezrati, you know, almost 2 decades ago. And she, at that time I was in undergraduate, I was like 18 to 23 years old. And back then it's like my parents paid my rent. All I had to do was go to class and then come home and like sit in the bathtub and read my art history books. So yeah, I had tons of time to go to Mysore class all the time, and there was no one else to take care of. And then I often say this when I teach, especially because I'm often teaching restorative yoga trainings, and I remind people that, you know, that was a phase for me. But then now, a couple decades later, I have a job, I have a house or apartment to take care of, I have a partner to take care of, a marriage to take care of, I have children now, I have aging parents, I have his aging parents. Like there's a lot of moving parts now. And so I need something different from my practice. Like I need my practice to give me more juice, you know, like not to wring me out and take out my juice. And not to forget, of course, you know this, Linda, but that many of these postures and sequences were invented for a different gender. They were invented for men or cultivated for men, very much to suppress the sexual energy. So especially young men suppress sexual energy so that they could spend time in meditation. And I, quite frankly, in my life right now, with being pulled in all those different directions, being so many, playing so many roles, businesswoman, daughter, wife, mother, daughter-in-law, I don't need to suppress my sexual energy. Like I don't need to, like, I need more, I want more fire, you know, more joie de vivre, more juice. And so to me, it's actually not so important what my practice actually looks like. As you're saying, it could be lying over a bolster and crying or doing sun salutations. It doesn't matter to me what it looks like. It matters the effect.
And that's interesting too, because I always, from Ashtanga, I never felt exhausted from Ashtanga yoga. And then when I started teaching, people were telling me that they were feeling exhausted through the day. And I always felt like it gave me energy. And then when I had my kids, especially after the second baby, the first baby was not so bad, but then after the second baby, because then I still had I had a 2-year-old and a brand new baby. Then I started realizing, that's when I really noticed that, yeah, it's taking my energy instead of giving me energy. And it was a whole process. It didn't come easily for me, you know, not to give it up, because I still love, and actually now I feel like I have more energy than I did 10 years ago, you know, when they were, you know, 1 and 3. So, you know, I think it's really following, like learning what is right for you. It's not always easy though, because we think that, like, that's why I said it, like, it's like a checklist, you know, like you said, it can become robotic, and it's like, okay, I've done it and now it's done, and now I get back on with my life. And the yoga has never been that for me, because when I started the yoga, I had been in this very bad car accident. I had migraines, I had numb toe, numb thigh, I had many physical problems, and then also very many emotional problems. And so it gave me the power to leave a relationship that I had been in for 10 years that hadn't been, I shouldn't have been in that relationship. So it gave me that inner strength to leave that relationship. And it really gave me the clarity of mind to be able to choose what I needed to choose for myself. So I think if somebody's experiencing exhaustion, then there's something not going right there in the practice, right?
That could be, yeah.
Anyways, for the audience, it's kind of strange just talking to one person. I hope the audience is getting what they need from this, and that we're sharing some of our very own experiences that you can help with your own in your own life. And especially because I think it's quite interesting talking to you, because you and I have very different life experiences as well. So, and the number of different experiences that us human beings can have are endless. And as a teacher, what I've grown to over the years, what I've grown to realize is that I can't say something is better than the other. You know, that what my goal as a teacher is to help people, to facilitate them to go inside and see who they are, so that they can decide what is best for them. Because even sometimes maybe doing a really strong practice that is exhausting them might be taking them out of some very difficult mind stuff that they just don't have the emotional ability to deal with right now. So from the outside, I'm looking, thinking, wow, they're just like tearing themselves apart. But maybe it's helping them settle something that they really need to settle. So judging from the outside isn't very helpful. But anyway, we can talk from, you know, many different scenarios there. But I think that's what I get. That's why I was so interested to talk to you, because you practice on a daily basis a different style than I do. And I think you're amazing. You know, like, it's like union, it's yoga. We don't need to get into that, this yoga versus that yoga, which is happening in the yoga world. And it's pretty sad. So, yeah, Lizzie's amazing. So you have to take her class next week for sure. Even if you've never done restorative, give it a try. Grab some bolsters and blocks and blankets, and what else do they need?
If you don't have props, if you're home and you don't have any props, we will get you covered. You can basically, in brief, restorative yoga is the use of props to support the body in positions of comfort and ease, to support relaxation and health. So that's our kind of definition of restorative yoga. And so The props are just there to create positions of comfort and ease. So you can use pillows from your couch, you can use pillows from your bed, you can use blankets. I'm going to walk us through a sequence. We will use a chair, but I assume everyone has a chair, any chair from home, like a dining room chair. And those positions, it's just about moving the body into different positions and then taking some stillness and some breaths in those positions where the body's really comfortable. So we take in many yoga practices, asana practices, we use the sensation of stretch as a focusing tool. So, or a sensation of difficulty. So if you're in dog pose, for example, the backs of your thighs, your hamstrings might be speaking to you. Or for me, it's always my calves. My calves are always speaking to me in dog pose. And so I always say when I'm in dog pose, I'm focused on the sensation in my calves. And therefore I can't be worried about my bank account or my credit card bill, or, these, or even banal things like what I'm going to cook for dinner. It's like my attention is there. And so I have that sensation and I have my breath, and that is very pleasurable as a focusing tool. And in restorative yoga, we just take a slightly different approach. We're taking that stretch sensation. That's not what we're interested in, but instead we're looking for extreme comfort. And in that space of being deeply comfortable in our bodies, we then turn inward, ask ourselves to release the tension that we feel, and we have a different experience of relief, and a more perhaps a meditative experience inside of the poses. But this comfort, sukham in Sanskrit, that's what we're after.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lizzie.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's really been such a pleasure. I want to say thank you for inviting me, Linda, to have this conversation. And thank you to Chantal, who's behind the scenes.
Yes, thank you, Chantal. We couldn't do this without you, or I couldn't. Lizzie's better with technology than I am, but me, I'm useless at this. So everything, all the YouTube channel, the Facebook, the Instagram, this is all Chantal who's gotten me into any of this.
We are very, very grateful for our tech elves that work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, I want to share with people that if you want to get on my Sunday Shavasana series, I send out a newsletter about twice a month. And here is the website, Lizzie, ZZIE.yoga. And if you go there, you can sign up for it. And when you sign up, you'll get a bunch of free downloads, like guided Shavasanas, relaxations, stuff like that automatically when you sign up. And if you sign up for that, I will send out the link there next Sunday for our class that's going to be at Ashtanga Yoga Paris on your website. And that's a week from today. So May 31st is the class. Go to Ashtanga Yoga Paris website and just click through to the schedule, or you can click below in the YouTube and click on the link, because we are really excited to share this practice with you.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Lots of love.
Yes. Thanks, Lizzie.
Bye.
Bye.